Hey Misfits, welcome to DIY Sunday. This week we are going to make a scarf inspired by Harry Potter. I decided to make mine Hufflepuff colors, but you can choose whichever one you want. So I have some really old instructions that we're going to take a look at here. This is from the first time that I made this type of scarf, and we're going to try and follow it as best as possible. They're relatively simple instructions, so it shouldn't be too hard. Take your first piece of fabric, your main piece of fabric, and figure out how long it is. That way you can adjust. You also need to know how wide you want to make your scarf. I chose to use my old scarf as a reference. And we're going to mark where we need to cut off the excess fabric. Cut it off. And make sure that everything's even. Now we're making our stripes. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't making them too big compared to the rest of the scarf. And we're marking, making sure everything's even. Now we cut out 2 of this particular stripe so that way it's even on both sides of the scarf. This particular stripe I wanted to be the bigger of the 2. So for the smaller stripes, I double the width of it. That way I can fold it over and cut it in half. We're going to adjust the stripes to where we want them to be, and then mark it down. So here I'm just marking where I want the fringe on the ends to be. And then we're going to go in and mark where to cut the fabric to insert those stripes. I put the first mark for the fringe about 4 inches up from the end, because I want those fringes to be a little bit long. And then the first stripe I put about 4 inches up as well. And then from that first stripe, I put the next one about 2 inches up. Make sure you're marking all the way across, that way you have a guide for the rest of the cutting. So I cut where those marks were and inserted the stripes. Now what we're going to do is sew the right sides together, spread everything out, lay it all out, make sure you know where everything's going. Again, sew the right sides together along those edges. Do that for each edge of the stripe, and there you go. You've got your first set of stripes. I wanted to make my scarf longer, so I cut it down the middle, and we're going to add an extra yellow piece in there. Figured out how long I wanted that yellow piece to be, how much longer I wanted my scarf to be. And laid it out to sew it. Right sides together. And there we go. We have a more elongated scarf. Now the way it is now, it could be used as a blanket, but we want to make it into an actual scarf. So we're going to fold it in half and sew along that long edge. Again, fold it right sides together. Make sure you pin it in place at those key points with the stripes. That way when you're sewing it together, the fabric isn't pulling underneath you. Alright, now that that edge is sewn together, we can turn it right side out and observe our lovely scarf. Now, of course, it is hollow all the way through that scarf, and we need to sew up those edges so we can make the fringe. Sewing it together is an option. However, I choose to do that just so nothing gets stuck inside of the scarf. Now that it's sewn, we're going to cut up the fringe. Here we go. Now that your fringe is cut, you are all done. Thank you guys for hanging with me on this DIY Sunday. Tell us what colors you'd choose for your DIY scarf, and drop in the comments what house you are. Thanks for watching, Misfits. Be welcomed and get creative. Bye, guys.